Hey, what is up, you sexy beasts? GhostSickness Tristan here, and this is another My Best video. So, why I'm saying that is because I'm telling two funny My Best stories, and why they're best is because it wasn't me driving who got pulled over, I was just in the car at the time, and the people driving did not get tickets, but I'm going to get right into it. So the first time happened, I was 15, almost 16, I had my permit, I didn't have my license, so I paid my brother to take me to a friend's house, but we were going to go to Sonic first and get some half-price shakes, because it was after 8. So we go up to the top of our hill out of our neighborhood, and to the right, they were working on this giant roundabout. And so we're like, oh man, I wish they were done with this roundabout because it had been like 9 months or something like that, and they still hadn't finished this damn roundabout. It was almost done. You know, they had like dirt and some of it was paved and stuff like that, and then they had a bunch of gravel and stuff like that. So we're like, all right, well, let's just go ahead and, you know, move this cone and just go right through the roundabout so we can get to our destination, because it's the middle, you know, it's late, it's 8 or 9, and it's a little bit later, and so we're like, nah, nobody will see us, nobody's working on it, it's not gonna harm anything, right? So we go out of our neighborhood and we take a right, and right at the end is where the roundabout is pretty much. And so we stop, and I'm about to get out of the car to move the cone so he can go through, and we see this big beaming light kind of on our car. We're like, oh shit. Well, that's probably a cop car. That's probably a spotlight or something. So like, he's like, don't get out, don't get out. All right, let's get out of here. Let's turn around and let's just go. I hope he doesn't pull us over. So he figured it was a cop due to the really bright light and not just two of them. It was just the bright light on his car, because we have a cop in our neighborhood. He lives at the top of the hill, and sometimes at night he, you know, like patrols and keeps his lights on, because in Oregon, cops legally have to have their lights on. They can't just sit at a corner with their lights off, engine and idle, waiting to pull people over in speed traps and stuff like that. That's illegal here, so they have to have their lights on. So apparently he just started shift or something, and he turned on his lights and saw us, and so we're like, shit, I almost left the car. So we get going and we take the next right, kind of on the detour. So we just, you know, turned around and everything and turned on the next road. And so he turns on his lights, turns on his sirens, and we pull over. Obviously, my brother's like, shit. Should I be completely honest with him? What should I say? What should I do? I'm just like, yeah, dude, be completely honest with him. Don't lie. Don't make up an excuse. He obviously knew exactly what you were up to and what our plan was. So, yeah. So the officer comes to the window, and my brother has his hands on the driver's wheel at first, and then he's about to grab his wallet, and he's like, hey, stop moving. And he's like, oh god, I'm sorry, I didn't know what to do. So he's like, license, registration, please. I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, what would I normally have done? He's like, well, you're supposed to keep your hands on the steering wheel until they ask you to get your license and registration, because it looks like you're pulling out a gun otherwise. And so he's like, yeah. He reaches in the, you know, glove box, grabs his registration, and pulls out his license and everything, shows him to the cop. He's like, do you know I pulled you over today? And he's just like, yeah, it's because it looked like we were trying to go through that roundabout. He's like, were you trying to go through that roundabout? He's like, yes, we were thinking about moving the cone and just going right through, because I'm so sick of this roundabout being up. And the cop's like, yeah, dude, I know, it sucks. I really wanted to move it myself too, but they're almost done with it, and that would have been, you know, illegal or whatever, but I'm really glad you guys decided not to do it. And whatever. So yeah, and he's like, also why I pulled you over is because your front left headlight is out. And we're like, oh, well, my brother didn't really believe the cop at the time, because he figured he just pulled him over for almost going through that roundabout illegally. But either way, so he's like, well, where you guys headed? We're like, yeah, we're going to Sonic, and then I'm taking him to a friend's house, whatever. So he's like, all right, well, this time I'm gonna let you off with a warning. Go ahead and get that headlight fixed. And yeah, so just don't go through that roundabout. It's almost done. You can wait. Everything will be fine. He's like, all right, I won't. I promise. It's all good. So we get back in the car, and we're going, and we take another right, because we're going around the detour, basically. Going down the road, and this cop tailed us for like a mile and a half. And my brother was like super worried about being pulled over and everything. He basically followed us until he saw that where we were headed was Sonic. And so we go around the detour point again, and the cop knew we were going to Sonic, and so my brother's worried about him tailing us for so long, and then the cop ended up leaving. We go to Sonic, get some large shakes, and then I go to my friend's house, and we ended up getting drunk for the first time that night. If you guys haven't seen the story, I'll link in the description below as always. So that was a good time being pulled over. There have been worse times being pulled over for people, but I'm going to get on to the second story for today. This was rather recent. I would have to say it was October or September, or maybe even November of last year. So I was 16, almost 17. I had my license, I had a car and everything, but we were in my friend's car to go to lunch, and so this car was completely full. His 6 months weren't up. So in Oregon, basically you have to wait 6 months after you get your license to legally drive 3 people, and then you have to wait a whole year to legally drive anybody you want, any age, whatever, anytime during the day. So a whole year after you have your license, I've had my license for over a year, so all my stipulations on driving are completely gone, so I can really drive anybody, any time of night, whatever. But my 6 months were up at this point, so I can only drive 3 people. But anyway, that'll play in the part later in the story. So we're driving in his car. We had just left McDonald's because we got McDonald's, and there's 5 of us in total. So he's driving, 3 of us in the back seat, and 1 up front with him. And so we're leaving McDonald's, and there's a left turn intersection. Now, it doesn't have like a yield to left turn signal, people. It's just kind of, yeah, everybody can turn left, and the other side doesn't say anything like yield or anything. So at this stoplight, it's a pain in the ass to get out because there are a lot of cars going straight. There are a lot of cars turning left, and you got to turn left. And so this intersection absolutely sucks, and I agree, it does suck. So the light was green, and then it turned yellow, and so it was about halfway through yellow when he decides to gun it. Like, he just goes, he's like, fuck it, let's do it. And so he goes, and he's about middle of the intersection when the light turns red, and so he's, you know, red in the intersection. He's like, shit, shit, shit. And so he keeps going, and then he notices the cop on his right. So he's like, oh, no, 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 that cop just saw. And their lights just turned green. So we start going. He's in the left lane and everything, driving. There's 5 of us in the car, and I'm just like, whoop, whoop. And so I'm like, dude, you should probably get into the right lane. He might want to pass you or something. He hasn't pulled you over yet, so I don't know if you're going to get in trouble. He's like, shit, shit, shit. And so he gets into the right lane, and right after he got into the right lane, the cop turned on his lights. And I couldn't see back there because I'm in between 2 people. I'm in the middle of the back seat next to 2 of my friends, and then obviously they're up front. And so he turns on his lights, like, shit, shit, shit. So he pulls right into the nearest neighborhood, and he stops. He doesn't turn off his car, though. He keeps his hands on the dash after he, you know, rolls down the window or something like that. I'm not sure if it was already rolled down, but either way, it doesn't really matter. So the cop comes up, and this cop was kind of a dick. He was driving one of the nicer cop cars, but he obviously wasn't that much of a dick, which I thought was really funny. He's like, do you know I pulled you over today? And he's basically like, no, not really. And the cop's like, yeah, well, you just ran that red light. He's like, what? Oh, ran that? No, it was yellow. He's like, no, I saw it. It was red, and you ran right through it. He's just like, yeah, he caught me in a lie, basically. So, yeah, the light was red. The cop was right this time. And so he's like, all right, well, yeah. So he's like, wait, how old are you? He's like, 16. Here's my license, blah, blah, blah. Here's everything like that. He's like, are you 6 months up? And he's like, no. And so after he told him that, and there's 5 of us in the car, like I said, including him, so he's driving 4 people that he should not be driving because he should not even be driving anybody, let alone 3, let alone 4. So the cops, like, took his complete focus off of running the red light because that's why they have to pull you over. They can't pull you over if they suspect your 6 months aren't up, but they can pull you over if you break a law, or like run a stoplight, run a stop sign, speeding, whatever, something like that, right? So he's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you're driving a car full of people and your 6 months aren't up and everything like that, and you just ran that red light. He's just like, yeah. So he basically asked him to get out of the car. And at this point, you know, we have all our food. We took it to go. We didn't eat it inside. We got McDonald's and everything. And he's just, the engine's still running. He's out of his car talking to this cop. And I don't really know what they talked about, but it's mostly, you know, responsibility, driving, waiting to drive people, and all this other stuff, running red lights. He didn't really tell me the full story, but we're sitting back there. It's awkward. We're kind of laughing. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of bad because, like, oh shit, this cop looks like kind of a dick, especially because the way they started, because my friend was really nervous and kind of lied about it and kind of didn't admit the full truth. So he's just like, all right, well, I'm going to let you off with a warning or whatever. And so he comes back and asks, he's like, hey, do any of you guys have your license? It's like, yeah, who's oldest in this car? I'm like, me. And so he's like, are you 6 months up? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, is your 1 year stipulation up? I'm like, no. So he sees my driver's license, and he's like, all right, well, I need to take 3 of these guys. I need you to take 3 of these guys back because he can't, you know. And this was during lunchtime at school, so we were late for school at this time because it took like 15 to 20 minutes for the cop to talk to my friend. And so, you know, he's like, all right, well, go ahead and get in his car, and I'm gonna stay here for just a little bit, and I'm gonna leave soon, and then you're gonna take 3 of them back, and then you're gonna come back and get him. So the driver, my friend who got pulled over, I had to come back and get him last. I took 3 of my friends back to class, and then I went back and picked up him. And so I take 3 of them back, and then I come back and pick him up in his car. In his car, it was really scary to drive. I was worried that I was gonna rear end somebody, and that was actually quite scary. So I went back and picked him up, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but it was actually pretty funny. I was late for class. It didn't really matter. I didn't really care. It was forensics. She didn't really care either. But yeah, he didn't get a ticket. He didn't get his license taken away because you can until you're 18 if you're caught driving without your 6 months rule up is what it's called. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed the story. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button. Do not run through roundabouts illegally, and do not run stoplights in front of cops. Remember the fact that I love you guys. Bye.